The annual Mitchell family barbecue was in full swing, the oppressive July heat making everyone irritable as they crowded into Aunt Karen's meticulously maintained backyard in River Oaks, Houston's most exclusive neighborhood. The air smelled of charred wagyu burgers and judgment, with a hint of Chanel No. 5 that probably cost more than the processing chips in my first satellite prototype. I parked my deliberately modest Honda Civic between Jessica's Mercedes G-Wagon and Uncle Bob's Bentley. The car was just another part of my carefully maintained facade. No need to explain why the CEO of a multibillion-dollar aerospace company drove a 10-year-old sedan. Let them keep thinking I was struggling. In exactly 2 hours and 17 minutes, everything would change anyway. Sarah. There you are. Aunt Karen's voice carried across the perfectly manicured lawn, drawing unwanted attention. She stood by the custom outdoor kitchen that had cost more than most houses, wearing designer casual wear that screamed, "I'm rich but pretending not to try." "We were just discussing your situation." I adjusted my plain black t-shirt deliberately worn instead of my usual Tom Ford business attire, and walked toward the cluster of relatives gathered around the Brazilian granite island. They all had that look, the mixture of pity and superiority reserved for the family disappointment. The black sheep. The dreamer who never grew up. 32 and still looking for direction. Uncle Bob shook his head, bourbon sloshing in his Waterford crystal glass. His investment banking success had always been the family's measuring stick for achievement. "Your cousin Jessica just made junior partner at Goldman Sachs. Youngest in the firm's history." "Good for Jessica," I replied, accepting a paper plate of potato salad I had no intention of eating. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably another update from Mission Control about the final launch preparations, but I couldn't check it here. "Not yet. You know," Aunt Karen leaned in, her voice dripping artificial concern, her recent facelift pulling her expressions just a bit too tight. "The community college is always hiring administrative assistants. I'm on the board. I could put in a word." My cousin Jessica smirked behind her wine glass, her new engagement ring catching the sunlight. The rock was impressive. Her investment banker fiancé had good taste. "Unless you're still pursuing that, what was it? Space thing? That silly startup you were talking about at Christmas." "Something like that," I smiled, thinking of the 300,000 square foot facility humming with activity just outside Houston. The facility they thought was just another failed startup dream. Inside those walls, over 500 of the world's best engineers were putting the final touches on humanity's first private space station. The culmination of 8 years of work, billions in private investment, and technological breakthroughs that would revolutionize space manufacturing. "Honestly, Sarah," my mother joined in right on cue. "Her tennis outfit probably cost more than what my employees thought I made in a month. When are you going to get a real job? Your father and I are worried sick. All those years at MIT and for what? To tinker in some warehouse." I checked my watch. T-90 minutes. The launch sequence was probably starting now at our New Mexico facility. The media embargo would lift soon and then... "Still wearing that old watch?" Aunt Karen noticed, her eyes critical. "Jessica's fiancé just bought her a beautiful Cartier for their engagement. You know, if you'd focused more on dating instead of those science fiction dreams." "It's reliable," I said simply, not mentioning it was a custom-designed piece incorporating a secure satellite uplink to my station systems. The watch alone was worth more than her kitchen renovation, but its value wasn't in the materials. It was in the proprietary technology inside, just one of the 412 patents my company now held. "Speaking of time," Uncle Bob chimed in, swirling his bourbon like he was about to dispense more financial wisdom, "how long are you going to keep up this entrepreneur fantasy? Your trust fund won't last forever. Smart money is in traditional investments. Look at Jessica, she understands the real world. If they only knew I'd never touched the trust fund. Every cent had gone into research and development while I built my company from nothing. The patents alone were worth billions, and once the station was operational, the value would skyrocket. We already had contracts with every major pharmaceutical company for zero-gravity drug development." I glanced around the gathering, noting the usual family dynamics. Cousin Michael bragging about his medical practice, though he'd been passed over for chief of surgery again. Aunt Linda discussing her son's struggling art gallery as if it were the next Guggenheim. Uncle Peter pretending his recent divorce wasn't because of his gambling debts. "Sarah used to be so promising in school. my mother sighed to the group, sipping her champagne. Valedictorian, full ride to MIT, offers from all the top tech companies. Then she got these ideas. Started talking about private space exploration like some sort of Elon Musk wannabe. The irony almost made me laugh. Elon had actually called me last week exploring a potential collaboration. But that was still under wraps like everything else. Ideas don't pay bills, Aunt Karen declared with the confidence of someone who'd never had to worry about bills in her life. Still unemployed? She smirked, loud enough for nearby conversations to pause. The question hung in the air like the Houston humidity, heavy and uncomfortable. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked it, seeing the encrypted message from my COO. Final checks complete. Launch sequence initiated. All systems nominal. Ready for historic moment, boss. I thought back to 8 years ago when I'd first pitched my vision for revolutionizing space manufacturing. The rejections, the doubts, the sleepless nights working on prototypes. The breakthrough with our proprietary metal alloy that could only be properly forged in zero gravity. The first successful test satellite. The day we secured series of funding for $500 million. And through it all, these family gatherings where I played the role of disappointment. These BBQs where I listened to their judgment while running a company that was about to change human history. Anyone want to watch some TV? I suggested casually, checking my watch again. I heard there might be something interesting on the news. Oh, is there another story about Jessica's big case? My mother brightened, always eager to celebrate the family's acceptable version of success. Something like that, I smiled, following them into Aunt Karen's oversized living room. The massive TV was already tuned to CNN. Karen never missed a chance to show off her expensive electronics. The news anchor's voice filled the room. We're minutes away from a historic moment in private space exploration. The first commercially funded space station is preparing to launch. Oh please, Uncle Bob scoffed, settling into the imported Italian leather sofa. Another billionaire's vanity project. What's next? Gold-plated rockets. The CNN anchor continued, her voice filled with barely contained excitement. This launch represents a fundamental shift in space commercialization. Sources say the station's revolutionary manufacturing capabilities could generate over $50 billion in revenue within the first year. My cousin Jessica laughed, twirling her engagement ring. That's almost as ridiculous as Sarah's revolutionary ideas. Remember that presentation she tried to give at Christmas about metal crystallization in zero gravity? I did remember. I also remembered leaving that family dinner to close a $2 billion deal with the Department of Defense. All classified, of course. The ridiculous crystallization process they'd mocked was now patent protected in 147 countries. Speaking of failed ventures, Aunt Karen chimed in, adjusting a throw pillow that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Whatever happened to that company you started, Sarah? Stellar something. Stellaris Technologies, I corrected quietly, watching the live feed as my ground crew completed final checks. The massive launch facility in New Mexico looked pristine in the afternoon sun. My company's logo emblazoned proudly on every building. Such a waste of your education, my mother sighed. You could have taken that job at Google. Benefits, stability, a real career path. The camera panned across the launch pad, showing the massive rocket in all its glory. 300 feet of cutting-edge engineering, crowned with the world's first commercial space station. 8 years of work, countless sleepless nights, and more than a few technological breakthroughs that had the scientific community buzzing. This launch comes after months of speculation about the mysterious CEO behind Stellaris Technologies, the anchor continued. Despite the company's meteoric rise and unprecedented success in private funding rounds, the founder has managed to maintain complete anonymity. Probably some old tech guy with too much money, Uncle Bob declared. These Silicon Valley types love their secrets. I smiled, remembering the lengths we'd gone to maintain my privacy. The shell companies, the dummy boards, the careful misdirection. Even our employees thought the CEO was some reclusive genius who only communicated through secure channels. Only my core team knew the truth. The station itself, the anchor went on, represents a quantum leap in space manufacturing capabilities. Its proprietary systems, protected by hundreds of patents, could revolutionize everything from pharmaceutical development to advanced electronics. My phone buzzed again. Launch control, T-10 minutes. All systems go. Ready to make history, Ms. Mitchell? Initial stock offering is rumored to be the largest in history, the financial analyst on screen was saying. Early valuations suggest Stellaris Technologies could be worth upwards of $300 billion after today's launch. $300 billion? Uncle Bob choked on his bourbon. That's impossible. Nobody's heard of this company until now. I have, I said softly. What was that, dear? My mother asked, barely listening as she texted Jessica's latest achievements to her country club friends. I said I have heard of them. I stood up, walking closer to the television. In fact, I know exactly how much the company's worth. Down to the last cent. Oh. Aunt Karen's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. Did you interview there for an assistant position? You should have said something. I'm sure they need support staff. The launch countdown began on screen. My watch buzzed. Final systems check complete. I pulled out my phone and opened a secure app, entering a complex authorization code. What are you doing? Jessica asked, watching me curiously. Authorizing the launch, I replied calmly. Can't start without CEO approval. The room fell silent except for the TV countdown. 10 faces stared at me in various stages of confusion and disbelief. But that would mean. My mother started. T-5 minutes, the anchor announced. We're now getting word that Stellaris Technologies CEO will be making history not just with this launch, but by finally revealing their identity. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my credentials. The holographic CEO badge caught the light, my photo and title clearly visible next to the company logo. You're... Uncle Bob stammered. Sarah Mitchell, I finished for him. Founder and CEO of Stellaris Technologies. Currently ranked as the world's most valuable private aerospace company. I paused, enjoying the shocked silence. And definitely not unemployed. That's impossible, Aunt Karen whispered. You've been struggling, living in that tiny apartment. A secure facility disguised as an apartment complex, I corrected. The tiny apartment is actually a 3-story command center. Those dead-end jobs you thought I was working? Cover stories while I built a company that's about to change the world. But the trust fund. My mother managed. Never touched it. Funded the initial research myself through technology patents. First round of private investment was $500 million. Second round was $2 billion. Current company valuation. I glanced at the TV where financial analysts were debating numbers. They're actually underestimating by about $50 billion. The room erupted in chaos. Jessica dropped her wine glass. Uncle Bob's bourbon missed his mouth entirely. Aunt Karen sat down hard on her designer sofa. T-60 seconds, my watch announced in its subtle AI voice. If you'll excuse me, I said, pulling out a sleek laptop from my bag. I need to oversee the launch of humanity's first private space station. Feel free to watch. Those CNN cameras have great angles. The launch was perfect. My rocket pierced the sky like a brilliant arrow, leaving a trail of white vapor against the perfect blue backdrop. On Aunt Karen's 85-inch television, multiple camera angles captured the historic moment in ultra-high definition. The family watched in stunned silence as the Stellaris logo, my logo, climbed toward the stars. Stage 1 separation confirmed, my laptop announced. All parameters nominal. How? My mother whispered, her champagne forgotten. All this time. Second stage ignition successful, came the report from Mission Control. Trajectory optimal. Uncle Bob had collapsed into an armchair, his face ashen. The patents, the metal crystallization process, that Christmas presentation, was worth approximately $40 billion. I completed his thought, typing in a series of commands. The pharmaceutical manufacturing contracts alone are valued at $12 billion annually. Turns out making certain compounds in zero gravity produces rather spectacular results. Jessica was frantically Googling on her phone. Oh my God. So, you're on Forbes. Number 3 on the world's richest list as of about 10 minutes ago, I confirmed, watching the telemetry data stream across my screen. Though once the market opens tomorrow, I'll probably move up to number 1. The Chinese contracts haven't been announced yet. Aunt Karen had found her voice. But all those times we tried to help you, offered you jobs, worried about your future. I turned from my laptop, fixing her with a steady gaze. You weren't worried about my future, Aunt Karen. You were worried about your vision of what success should look like. Corner office, designer clothes, country club membership. I gestured to the TV. I was busy building something bigger. Payload separation initiated, my watch announced. Space station deployment sequence beginning. The CNN anchors were beside themselves with excitement as the massive station began to unfold in space, its solar arrays spreading like golden wings against the black void. 8 years of work crystallized in this moment. That's impossible, Uncle Bob muttered. The engineering alone, the materials science. 412 patents, I reminded him. The impossible is rather profitable, it turns out. My phone buzzed with a message from the president's office. The congratulations would have to wait. My mother had found an article about me online. Sarah Mitchell, 32, revolutionary aerospace engineer. Quantum manufacturing breakthrough. Youngest self-made. Oh my God. Station deployment complete, Mission Control reported. All systems online. Manufacturing modules activating. I smiled, watching the first status reports flow in. And now the real work begins. We have 12 pharmaceutical compounds beginning production within the hour. 3 new metal alloys starting crystallization by tonight. The Defense Department has booked our entire third module for the next 5 years.